All right. In this video, I want to talk about a few algebraic terms. So this is mainly for Algebra 1. Okay. All right. So specifically, these are the terms that I want to talk about. So algebraic terms. And then specifically, we're talking about the following terms, or definitions, really is what I'm saying. So you have constants, variables, coefficients, terms. I need to spell that correctly. So terms, expressions, and equations. So that's a whole lot, I know, but you'll see it's really not that bad. So we can talk about all this looking at this simple what we'll call essentially an equation here. Okay. All right. So anyhow, so just consider this, especially if it's your first time or one of your first times looking at something like this. 2x plus 3 equals 5. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is a constant. So this number right here, 3, is an example of a constant. And all a constant is a fixed quantity that doesn't change. And it are, also a number that's by itself. That means that 5 is a constant as well. So a constant, and if you subscribe to mathswaptutoring.com, specifically go to mathswaptutoring.com/subscribe, you can actually print these notes out. But anyhow, so a constant is a fixed number or quantity that never changes. And that's another piece to that. I say a number by itself. So 3 and 5 in this expression here are those are constants. But the reason why we say fixed number or quantity is because it's not just a number by itself. It can also be, for example, pi. Pi is a constant that never changes. Pi is 3.141592654, and so on and so forth. Eventually, you'll see there's another constant called E, 2.71828, whatever, but that's a constant. Okay, so you have these symbols sometimes that are constant values that never change. Okay, all right, now, so since we talk about constants, we should definitely immediately talk about variables. Now, a variable, V-A-R-I-A-B-L-E, a variable is a symbol for an unknown value. Okay, all right, so in this equation here, x is a variable. Let me label these. So these are constants. Erase this, hopefully. All right. So x is a variable. It's a symbol for an unknown value. In other words, x can take on any value that you want it to take on, but it's unknown. It's unknown, so we just put an x there, okay? So a constant is a fixed number, a quantity that never changes. But a variable is an unknown value, and you put a symbol in its place. So it could be X, Y, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever you want it to be, okay? Now, let's look at coefficient. Now, 2, you might look at it and say, oh, well, that's a constant 2, but it's not a constant because it's not a number by itself. Okay, so the number does not change, but it's not a number by itself. It's but right there joined up together with the variable. So 2 is what's called a coefficient. In other words, a coefficient is a number that appears before a variable. The variable is x, so the coefficient is 2. Now, the thing that you really have to remember is when you see that joined up there, 2x is the same thing as 2 times x. Okay, so you don't put the times in there, but whenever you see a number and a variable right there, or a variable with a coefficient, remember, this is very important. It's the same thing as 2 times that variable. Very, very important. All right, now let's look at the definition of a term. Now, all of these, 2x, that whole thing I'm saying, 2x, 3, and 5, all of those are terms. And all a term is a single number, variable, or variable with a coefficient. Yeah, I'm just going to write coef for short. All right, so that's all the term is. So if you have a question that says how many terms are in here, if you have a single number, like 3 or 5, each of those is a term. If you have a variable, like there's an x by itself, that's a term. If you have a variable with a coefficient, that together is one term. So this specifically has 1, 2, 3 terms in here, okay? All right, so almost done. What is an expression? So all an expression is 2x plus 3 is an expression, because an expression is a group of terms separated by, separated by plus or minus. That's it. So 2x plus 3 is an expression. All right, finally, equation. 2x plus 3 equals 5, or that whole thing is an equation. So all an equation, or actually specifically, let's say we add like a 5 plus x here. That's what would make it an equation, because an equation is 2 expressions separated by an equal sign. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about here. Some good introductory algebraic terms. Constants are numbers, fixed quantities, and numbers that don't change. Can be a number by itself. It can be, one of these other constants that we know of, like pi or e. A variable is whenever you see those letters inside of an equation. So essentially, it's just a symbol for a value that you don't know. A value, a symbol that you can plug in any value for. A coefficient is essentially the number that appears right before a variable, and it's the same thing as, you have to remember that number before the variable is actually being multiplied times the variable. A term is a single number or a variable with a coefficient. An expression is a group of terms separated by a plus or minus. So this piece right here is an expression. And then an equation is 2 expressions that are separated by an equal sign. Okay, pretty straightforward. Make sure that if you want to be in touch with I guess to get updated with more videos when we release them, that you subscribe to this YouTube channel and also subscribe to mathswaptutoring.com, so that you can get access to our downloadable math notes and get more updates about MathSwap. All right, yeah.